It's time to continue my tournament for Bruce's Battles, which now has a name. Bruce's Last Bastion. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the final 8. This is where the judging gets a bit harder. There's no denying that each of these teams have the capabilities of winning the fight. None of them have any issues that really make them completely dysfunctional, per se. So the judging gets a bit harder. But there is a difference between a clean victory and barely scraping by. And we'll soon find out the difference with the remaining competitors. Matchup 1. Spyro and Cinder versus Minwano. You'll see this with a lot of the fights in the tournament, but the judges had very split opinions on this. But as the main judge, I have the final say on who moves on. And it's close. But ultimately, it came down to their offensive weapons. Not all of Minwano's weapons actually work. The poison dart frog poison won't actually work on this creature, considering the fact that not only does it lack the ingredients to create the poison, but also the Arapaima scales will block its secretion. But that's not to say Minwano doesn't have some pretty effective weapons. The fluoropatite reinforced teeth can definitely do some damage, as well as the large back spikes of the blue tang, scaled up to this size, could easily penetrate through Bruce. Spyro and Cinder don't have as many weapons as Minwano. They rely on their main weapon, their jaws, which may not be as effective as the creator wants, because the creator specified that there are teeth on the top and bottom jaw, despite the fact that they also possess the unique jaw whirl from the Helicoprion. Helicoprions didn't actually have teeth on their top jaws, whereas both of them do. There were still concerns over whether or not that would hinder the jaw's performance, but it turns out they don't need to worry about that, because the teeth that they have will also hinder the performance no matter what. See, neither of them use regular shark teeth. Instead, their teeth come from piranhas. The red belly piranha for Spyro, and the black piranha for Cinder. But there's a common misconception with piranhas. They're not the vicious man-eaters that pop culture will make them out to be. There are many different species of piranhas, but only a few of them actually eat the flesh of living creatures. The rest are either vegetarians or eat only carrion. Contrary to popular belief, the red belly piranha isn't one of those meat eaters. The black piranha is, though, which would make Cinder a bit better than Spyro, especially since Spyro's Onchopristis barbs also won't really help, considering the only real way they would be effective is if Spyro shaked his head violently to try and ram them into Bruce or Chuck, which just isn't practical. I mean, real saw sharks face this problem. Trying to swing around their large noses would use up way too much energy, and the payoff really isn't that worth it, since it doesn't even do that much damage when swung. So yeah, now piranha teeth are definitely strong, but when it compares to a shark tooth, it just doesn't match. Now, a piranha might be able to take your toe or finger off, but a shark will be able to take your arm or leg. It's quite a big difference in power. If these two had regular shark teeth in place of the piranha teeth, then they would stand a much better chance and could have possibly moved on to the next round. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Due to being pretty equal with the other two in terms of defense, and having much more effective methods of attack, Minwano moves on to the final 4. Matchup 2. Khan versus Team Aurora. 3 very different hybrids, all incredibly smart, all have devastating bites, but there comes down to a few interesting factors that determined this fight. A few interesting design choices which, from past experience in Bruce's battles, are ones I really have to question. This was one of the drawings that the artist for them seemed to have a bit of fun with, but it does raise a very interesting point. See, way back in episode 1, Bruce fought Briesmonis, a giant iguana hybrid with this same large proboscis that the bioaccurate gasopod has. I'm not going to go full into detail on why this is a problem, but essentially, the giant proboscis is a very important organ, which the creature cannot afford to have damaged in an attack, much less bitten off. The counter-argument for this, you might say, is that it's close to the jaws, but Bruce remembers this as a weakness and will likely know to strike from this first. Remember, Bruce has bottlenose dolphin making up a part of his brain, and bottlenose dolphins are smarter than chimps. Bruce would likely be capable of remembering this giant proboscis as a weakness and go for it, and at the right angle, and with enough force, it could come clean off. Now, of course, there is the hagfish, and the boxfish could help defend the gasopod, but the thing with the hagfish is that it's capable of producing the venom throughout its entire body due to it being an invertebrate. With this being a gasopod, there'll only really be select spots to create this poisonous slime. So, with this creature's nose basically ripped off, it would pretty much be taken out of the fight, as an issue damage like that you won't really be coming back from, leaving Bruce to fight the bone shark, which still is far from easy, but the pleco catfish armor isn't exactly going to save it from its incredibly strong jaws. And plus, their bite forces might also be impressive for both the gasopod and the bone shark, but with Chuck being a mosasaur is much larger than them, and those arapaima scales he possesses could end up resisting a lot of their bite, meaning that Chuck can pretty much take out a dying gasopod while Bruce devotes all his attention to the bone shark. Khan doesn't have any of those exploitable weaknesses though. He is better armoured, a much deadlier pair of jaws thanks to those cutting bull shark teeth, and while Team Aurora is smart, Khan possessing bottlenose dolphin is smarter than both of them, and probably one of the only creatures that Bruce has faced to be on par with him in terms of intelligence. And with this being a fair 1v1, Khan can definitely put up a much more impressive fight. So, surprisingly, Khan ends up taking the win with a surprising number of categories, basically beating Team Aurora in almost every category. And because of that, he moves on to the final four. Matchup 3. Ragebait versus the Salty Assault. This match was easily the closest match of the entire tournament so far. But unlike the others, it only really came down to one of them that would determine the winner. The Salty Assault are fast, powerful hybrids that can work really well in a duo, possibly even better than Bruce and Chuck, due to them practically being the same species. But they also lack really any kind of defense, trading that for extra speed, similar to what Bruce did. Ragebait kinda fails on a few categories in terms of his mobility, his intelligence, and his ability to fight, due to sacrificing pretty much all of that with the ability to just be as poisonous as possible. The plan being that the sheer amount of venom would be able to stop Bruce and Chuck from ever actually killing it. And because none of my judges decided to actually look this up, I took the honours of doing it. Ragebait is pretty much the factor that determines who's moving on. And it honestly isn't looking good for him. It turns out that tiger sharks can actually eat box jellyfish, the main contributor of venom for Ragebait. Not only that, they actually eat them as part of their daily diet. It's thanks to a combination of special mouth lining and mucus produced over the body that protects them from the sting's venom. So essentially, Bruce would be able to actually bite into this creature and not really feel its effects. Chuck might struggle a bit more, due to him not really being a full adapted shark, but sharks as a whole are really good at fending off against various venoms. So with 6 different sharks in Bruce's genome, he has an incredibly powerful immune system, mostly thanks to the tiger shark, but still. So Ragebait's venom isn't really going to do a whole lot to Bruce. And eventually, after enough chomping, Ragebait will eventually die. And unlike Hydractus, he can't cheat death and regenerate. Once he's gone for good. So, in what some people might consider the biggest upset of the tournament, the Salty Assault are moving on to the Final Four. This just goes as a lesson. Don't try and use Venom to kill my shark. It doesn't work. Matchup 4. Electroterra Abyssus versus Dreadlock and Nakarkus. I'm not going to spend too much time about this one because I think we all saw the winner coming a mile away. We already well established that Nakarkus has a lot of problems that would prevent him from being functional. You can watch the video on that to previously in the tournament to find out why he's bad, but essentially it boils down to the fact that trying to produce venom and electricity won't really work. The sea urchin spikes won't protect it against Bruce's bite, and the upscaling for the blue whale would make this thing too big to even exist. So that essentially leaves Dreadlock on his own, and Dreadlock doesn't really have many issues that I can see per se, apart from a few. See, there was some issues leaning on about whether or not this creature could actually survive in salt water. The creator did say he can, and I believe him, but trying to make a hybrid that can go in the ocean and on land is a tricky process. I feel like Dreadlock would have been better to use as something like Metriorhynchus for the base to make a fully aquatic hybrid, because this is an aquatic hybrid war after all. And plus, at 15 tons and 65 feet long, there is absolutely no way at all this creature can survive on land. The creator tried to justify it by saying he would be able to hop using his tail, to which I respond, that's not how tails work. This thing would basically shatter its own legs and would beach itself on land, like a whale. In the water, it would definitely fare a lot better, but without the aid of his buddy Nakarkus, this is a 2v1. And Bruce and Chuck, the Sea Dragon Warriors, are especially adept at hunting much larger opponents, avoiding the main weapons whilst aiming for any weak points they have, like the legs, or the tail, or anything else that they can find. Those jaws are definitely lethal, but not exactly lethal if you can't actually catch them, with Bruce and Chuck both utilising much higher speed in order to avoid the attacks and then punish him for it. That's not to say Electroterra Abyssus's weapons are perfect either. No, the fact that he won't be able to coil or use his shock, as implied by the drawing, means that he's definitely a bit more limited in terms of weapons, but the weapons he still has are incredibly powerful. The tail, maybe not so much, as fresher sharks mainly use their tails to stun large schools of fish, each one being around big enough to fit in their mouth. Bruce and Chuck are a lot larger than that. Bruce might definitely feel some pain from getting whipped by the tail, but it won't be enough to completely stun him, and I doubt it will even register much to Chuck, might be a slight annoyance. The real weapon come from the jaws. Those fluorapatite reinforced teeth can do a lot of damage. And due to this creature's long, slender body plan, it's surprisingly speedy. Nowhere really near as fast as Bruce, but is still able to keep up a decent pace with him. Enough to catch him and kill him, possibly. He stands a much better chance at victory. Due to the fact that Electroterra Abyssus can stand his ground in a 2v1 much better than Dreadlock can, and the fact that Nakarkus had already kind of killed himself, just from existing, Electroterra Abyssus is moving on to the Final Four. So with that, we now have our Final Four in Bruce's last bastion. Minwano, Khan, Deccan and Carabidus of the Salty Assault, and Electroterra Abyssus. All four, technically 5 of these hybrids, are easily some of the strongest and most challenging opponents that Bruce will face. But, unlike the Great Hybrid War by Goji Center, this time, there will be a winner. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode, because it's the final one. That's right. Next episode, we'll be tackling the semi-finals and the finals. Next episode, we will crown the winner of who stands the best chance at conquering Bruce. And the winner will be put up against him in the fight of a lifetime. And to the remaining competitors, good luck.